A very good evening to all of you, my dear students of class 10 ABC, all three sections. I hope you all will be very fine, very healthy with your family members, and must be aware about all the circumstances that are taking place in the country right now. Be safe at your house, be happy. I request all of you stay safe inside your house. And now I would like to start with social studies, and we were discussing about the democratic politics, है ना? We were discussing about the democratic politics, and in that particular book we are discussing a chapter that's called power sharing. Yesterday I told you the meaning of accommodation in Belgium. Yesterday I told you in detail what was the importance, how the Brussels was developed as the headquarter of European Union. So I told you everything. Now we are moving further in the same regard. What do we learn from these two stories? I mean, we have already studied about two stories. One story is of what? One story is of Sri Lanka, and second story is of what should I say, Belgium. So what do we learn from these two stories of Belgium and Sri Lanka? Both are democracies. Now underline, what is the similarity between Belgium and Sri Lanka? Both are democracies in nature, yet they dealt with the question of power sharing differently. Although both are democratic country, but even then they are different in their thinking level on the issue of power sharing. In Belgium, the leaders have realized that the unity of the country is possible only by respecting the feelings and interest of the different communities and regions. Now see, in Belgium, it was actualized that we are safe when we are safe until or unless we give respect to the feelings and the emotions and the interest of the different type of communities and regions equally. Such a realization resulted in mutually acceptable arrangement for sharing power, and such a kind of thinking was I mean provided such a kind of thinking provided a result. And what was that result? That we should have a mutual acceptable understanding for sharing power. Mutual acceptable arrangement or understanding for sharing power. Sri Lanka shows us a contrasting example. But if you have a look on Sri Lankan condition, then 100% we will find that Sri Lanka is totally different from this thinking. It was that country was totally different from, I mean, Belgium's thinking. It shows that it shows us that if a majority community wants to force its dominance over others and refuses to share powers, it can undermine the unity of the country. And we take a lesson from Sri Lanka, that Sri Lankan condition, that if a country is not ready to accept the feeling and emotions and interest of another community, then there will be a condition like civil war that will take place. Now in next page we come to know that why power sharing is desirable. Now another heading that is also important, that why power sharing is desirable. Why? Thus two different sets regions can be given in favor of power sharing. Now, this question may come to your exam also, that why power sharing is desirable for a democratic country. Thus, two different sets of regions can be given in favor of power sharing. Firstly, power sharing is good because it helps to reduce the possibility of conflict between social groups, since social conflict often leads to violence and political instability. Power sharing is good way to ensure the stability of political order. Underline. The last line is important. Power sharing is good way to ensure the stability of political order. Okay. If the power are equally shared with all kind of communities, with all kind of societies of the of our country, then 100% it will be considered. It will be thought that this is a very democratic country, and the peace and prosperity of that country will increase day by day. Okay, that is a good way to ensure the stability of political order. Imposing the will of majority communities over others may look like an attractive option in the short run, but in the long run it undermines the unity of the nation. Just destroying the feelings, just not accepting the interest of other community, it may be a pleasant position for a few days, for a very short span of time, but if we talk about a long run, then 100% it is against the feeling of unity for a country. And we can easily understand that such a kind of condition leads towards violence, such a kind of circumstances lead towards intolerance. Now we will move to further on, but in the long run it undermines the unity of the nation. Tyranny of the majority is not just oppressive for the minority, it often brings ruin to the majority as well. The tyranny nature of a majority ruling party, it is not only, I mean, bad, cruel for the minority, but it is also destructive for the majority as well. There is a second deeper reason why power sharing is good for a democracy. There is second deeper reason why power sharing is good for democracy. Power sharing is the very spirit of democracy. Underline again, this line is to be the key point, going to be the key point, that power sharing is the very spirit of democracy. A democratic rule involves sharing power with those affected its exercise and who have to live with its effect. Now what do we understand from this point? That power sharing is important from two aspects. The number one aspect, the people, the party, the society that exercise those powers, power sharing is responsible for them, power sharing is important for them. And what is the second side? Second side, on that part of society where we can see the effect of power sharing, that, I mean, suppose that the affected society due to that power sharing is also an important part. Okay, so part, I mean, two aspect, what are two aspect of power sharing? There is second deeper reason of the power sharing is good for democracies. Power sharing is the very spirit of democracy. A democratic rule involves sharing power with those affected by its exercise. Number one, I mean, it is important for those person who are affected by its exercise, by the exercise of power sharing, and who have to live with its effect. Now, another part is who are coming under the influence of such a power sharing, they are also important. So power sharing is important for two types of people. Number one, who are involved in its exercise, and number two, who are affected by its exercise, number one, and who are going to see its effect upon own self near in future. So two types of people are responsible for, are important to be involved in such a power sharing policy. People have a right to be consulted on how they are be governed. 100% every people should know that what kind of rules and regulation are being applied over them. So that is why this line has been written over here. People have a right to be consulted on how they are to be governed. A legitimate government is one where citizens, through participation, acquire stake in the system. And what is a valid system? What is a legitimate system? A legitimate government is one where citizens, through participation, acquire a stake in the system. Okay, I mean, where elections are conducted and each person is given importance, that only that system is called important system or good system. Let's call the first set of regions prudential, okay, and the second moral. Now two words are there. Number one, the first set of regions, that is called prudential, and second set of region, that is called moral. You know, moral, you easily know that we do some work. Why do we some work? I mean, why do we do some work? Because it is important for the point of view of moral system. And we number one, prudential. What do you mean by prudential? We should know. If we talk about prudential, then it becomes very much important that what kind of power, what kind of quality, what kind of things that are shared during power sharing. So in the very starting of this paragraph, this has been mentioned that let's call the first set of regions prudential and the second moral. While prudential regions stress the power sharing will bring out better outcomes. Okay, the first one, that is called prudential system. The motto of those kind of system, those kind of power sharing, the region, prudential region of power sharing. What is the importance of prudential region of power sharing? That this will bring out some better output, this will bring out some better result, this will create some good effect. Okay, so that is why we called it prudential in nature. While prudential regions stress that power sharing will bring out better outcomes. Okay, so and what is the another one? Another one is moral. Okay. So okay, and actually the first word that is written, prudential, that means thinking a better, about a better future. Okay, thinking about a better future. Some rules and regulation are there. Some rules are made for the betterment of the upcoming generation. Okay, that is called prudential. And the second is moral. So the what is the importance of prudential region? That these kind of regions, these kind of activities put stress that power sharing will bring out some better outcomes, while moral regions emphasize the very act of power sharing as valuable. I mean, we have got two words, prudential, that means for the betterment of the upcoming generation, for the betterment of the our upcoming future. That is why we follow all these power sharing. And if we talk about moral, then moral regions emphasize the very act of power sharing as valuable. They talk about values, what is good, what is bad in society, what customs are good, what customs are bad in the culture and society. So all these things come under moral values or moral reason. So I think you will able to understand it. Now there is a extract, there is a passage. Again the key, there is a meaning has been written, that prudential, based on prudence or on careful calculation of gain and losses about the future. Prudential decisions are usually contrasted with the decisions based on purely on moral consideration. Okay, two opposite things are there, prudential and moral, both are different thing. Prudential means based on prudence or on careful calculation of gain and losses, that if we will do then we will be benefited or not, if we will do then we will get benefit or loss. The calculation of such a kind of thing is called prudential. It is totally opposed to values. It is totally against, it is little bit contrasted in nature, little bit contrast in nature with the moral reasons, with the moral values. Okay, then Khali's dilemma, condition of confusion. Dilemma means, so you'll just read it out, and if you have any kind of doubt then ask it to me. Now I would like to start a new page, that is page number, what should I say, that is page number 8, page number 8. Okay, one request I would like to make to all of you, that it is my first time experience to teach you like this. Okay, usually last 1 year you might have seen that I keep on teaching you people on blackboard, on whiteboard, but this is first time experience. So if you find anything change in my me, then please immediately inform me. I would like to change my that habit or that concept, that thinking, and I would like to modify myself according to the need of you people also. Okay, so please keep this thing in your mind and keep on reading also. So now in this page what we are going to discuss, that forms of power sharing. forms of power sharing. We will discuss this thing. The idea of power sharing has emerged in opposition to the notions of undivided political power. The idea of power sharing has emerged in opposition to the notion of undivided political power. Now, to just to make you out about this heading, I would like to give example of Indian history. How that before the independence of India, or before the medieval time period, before the modern time period, during Mughal dynasty, what did we find? That there was the ruling of one leader, there was the ruling of one emperor, and that emperor was the, all in all, that emperor was the every that emperor was having all kind of powers in himself. So that is called monocratic nature, autocratic nature, monarchical form of government, in which there is no need of power sharing, there is no value of power sharing. All the powers were centered in a particular person, in a particular institution, that is called monarchy, or that is called emperor. Okay, the idea, but from where this idea came? The idea of power sharing has emerged in opposition. Now just think about the opposition, against situation, the opposite situation of that centralization of power sharing. Then this idea will come in your mind, that power sharing is important again to fight against the feeling of centralized power, against the feeling of monopoly, against the feeling of monarchical power. Okay, for a long time it was believed that all power of a government must reside in one person, or one group of persons located at one place. It was the thinking of, from a long time period back, that all the power should be concentrated in one person, or all the power should be centralized in one group of persons that live in the same place. Okay, it was felt that if the power to decide is dispersed, it would not be possible to take quick decision and to enforce them. And what was the basic thinking behind it? That if we will distribute the power among various kind of institution, then it will be becoming very difficult for us to take some good decision and to enforce them. But these notions have changed with the emergence of democracy. But when once democratic system was applied in all over the country, all over the world, then this notion got changed. This feeling got changed. But these notions have changed with the emergence of democracy. One basic principle of democracy is that the people are the source of all political power. Underline this point, that is also very important point. One basic principle of democracy is that the power, it would be not possible to take quick decision. Okay, but these notions have changed with the emergence of democracy. One basic principle of democracy is that people are the source of all political power. What is the basic feature? That people are the source of all political power. In the democracy, people rule themselves through institution of self government. In a good democratic government, due respect is given to diverse people and view that exist in a society. Now we will see these lines, that one basic principle of democracy, that the people are the source of all political power. In a democracy, people rule themselves through institution of self government. Now from this line we are getting three institutions: legislature, executive, and judiciary. If you'll clear this line, if you'll explain this line, then you'll get the answer, that in a democracy people rule themselves, rule over own self themselves through institution of self government. Okay, in a good democratic government, due respect is given to diverse people. Okay, in democratic system, all kind of groups are given respect, all kind of people are given respect. In a society, everyone has a voice in the shaping of public policies, and everyone can raise his or her voice for the sake of public policies, for the betterment of all the public. Therefore it follows that in a democracy, political power should be distributed among as many citizens as it is possible to us. Okay, then this is considered. That is why the definition of democracy has been given, that to the people, of the people, and by the people. Okay, so in democracy, what do we try? We try to distribute that all the powers among as many citizens as it is possible for us. In modern democracies, power sharing arrangements can take many forms. Let's look at some of the most common arrangements that we have or will come across. Okay, now in democratic modern democracies, modern democratic countries, we have various kind of power sharing arrangements. And now we are going to study, we are going to look at some of the most common arrangement that we find in all over the country in various kind of democracies, or in future we may find in such all these possible power sharing options. We will discuss the further, okay, in further heading, in further time. So that is sufficient for today, I think. And now keep on writing your notes. I request, try to summarize all these points, try to do exercise of this first chapter and show it to me. Very few people are showing it to me. Not a single girl of class 10 C has shown it to me, apart from Akhtari. She is doing little bit work, but I do not know where are the other students, Ashim and everyone, Aditya. I do not know why they are not doing their work. So if you have any kind of doubt, then please ask it to me. Otherwise, solve the exercise of this first chapter. This is your homework, and show it to me in WhatsApp, or you may just send it to your classwork. The respective teacher will see and make some necessary correction, or you may just direct send to me in your class WhatsApp group, and I'll see over there also. So thank you for joining this class. We'll meet tomorrow. Take care. Have a good night, sweet dream.